Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube tutorial by Matt the Tutor. Today I will be going over the difference between public variables and private variables. So the main difference, and if I sound stuffy, it's because I do have a bit of a cold, maybe, or it's just my sinuses. Anyway, the main difference between a public and a private is that public variables can be accessed by other classes. And we already know how to make classes, so I don't have to go over that again. If you don't know what class is, please watch my video, I am in class. That will explain everything. Next thing that I'm gonna talk about is what private is. Private means that you can't access it from another variable, from another class directly. You can get it indirectly, but you can't get it directly. So let me go and show you an example. So let's make a new class and let's call this public, just because. Okay, so in my public class, let's do this. Public, public, and let's do public name equals that fail string public int number. So then in here I'm just creating a constructor just to show you. String name and then int number, and then this dot name equals name. If you don't remember, this basically allows the compiler to distinguish which variable you're assigning to what. So this is referring to this class. Okay, so now let's make a class public. My class equals new public math and a number 7. Failed. I should have there we go. Now you're gonna get the squiggly, meaning that my variable class is not used. That's perfectly fine. So because our variables, if you recall, is public, that means other classes can access these variables directly. So system.out.println my class, let's do name is equal to my class dot, and then when you click dot, you see how these names, how in the IntelliSense your variables come up, number and name. That's because they're public, right? So when you run this, you get name equals Matthew, because you're able to directly access the name. Now you might be wondering, well, if I why would you make something public where you don't have access to it? Well, the thing is, what happens if you have passwords or something, right? And you don't want the another class to have direct access to it. You can only provide methods that will be able to access those variables if you decide to make them. So let's do this. Let's make another class called private. Let's do the same thing. Private string name, private string number. So let's do the same thing. Public private, and I'm just gonna go here and copy this. And you're done. Well, kind of. this dot name equals name, this dot number equals number. Okay. Oh, fail. Int. Okay. So if you go here now, back into our main class, if we do private, my class private equals new private mat, and then 7 again. Now watch what happens if we try to print out this, my class private. You get an error because name has private access in private, which is the class. So now it says make name package private, which we don't want that. So how would you get this variable, right? How would you get this private variable? Well, you can make, back in my private class, you can make a method that returns this. That's one way to do it. So you can do public string, because we're returning the name, string. Actually, there's a much better way to do this. If you do alt, I believe it's control shift. Okay, so one of those shortcut keys allows, okay, generate code, I believe somewhere. Oh, insert code, which is alt space or shift space, one of those. So we're going to do getters. So we'll just click select fields to get to generate getters for. Just click that, so that way you don't have to click this and this. Like imagine we have a lot of variables. So now that we have this, we have the public string get name, and it returns the name. Now if we go into this, we can do my class private dot get name, and now we don't get an error because this method is basically like, instead of being able to directly, let's say you're going to open a door, let's say that you can't directly open a door to walk inside, you have to open a window that someone gave you access to get into the house. So when you run this, as you can see, name Matt, that was the first public class, and now you have name equals Matt, because even though it's this thing is private, it's only private to other classes around it. In this thing, in this package, or if you don't have a package, just have default, which no package will come up. Public and public versus private class don't have access to this private class here. Well, it does have access to it because we're able to make a class out of it, but it doesn't have access to the variables that it has in here. So the only way to get it is through a public string get name, which it implicitly returns it. That way we can't set this to some other variable, because if we go to here, right, if we go back to our main class and we type this in, my class dot name equals John, and now if we run this, it should print out name John. So it was Matt, right? This is the private, and then name equals John. So you see how we could directly change it to whatever we wanted. So to be able to prevent someone from just writing some code and changing it, so let's say you're wanting to prevent someone from let's say doing an illegal argument to change something, instead of it being public, you can make it private, and when you run that class or whatever method you have, so let's say in here you had a method that says change or set the name to something, and you only want that name to be 3 characters. Well, in if it's public, you can change the name directly, but if it's private, you have to go through a public class that changes it only if you have the name of it is 3 characters. You can also do it here, but it will just look messy. In your main class, you only want stuff to be, uniform. You only want to have in that class what you need directly. You don't want to have excess mumbo jumbo on inside here. This is only strictly business. Um, and then everything else is played in the background. So you see how all I had to do was create my class and then my class.name. Imagine if I had to do this. I had to create a string name equals whatever, and imagine if I have to go, like I need to change the name or something. I have to change it every time in the code. That would be kind of annoying, but in your class, in your main class, if you had a method, you can just do whatever class it had dot change name or to whatever. So it just makes it much cleaner, much nicer to read, and yeah, it makes it look strictly business. So that's pretty much the gist of public versus private. If you want more information on how you can go further into using public and private and using the most out of that, feel free to comment in the comment section. I would love to do an entire video on public versus private. It's a very powerful tool. These words, public versus private, it's very powerful. You can do a lot of stuff with it. And you can have a lot of fun. You can make it very creative, and you can also make it very protective and stuff. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed. This is one of my shorter videos. So yeah, please subscribe, please share, comment on what you'd like to see next, and see you then.